Thank you very much for watching. Joining us right now is the fearless Catherine Deves, fresh from the campaign trail. She joins us now in the Man Cave. Thank you very much. And talking of fearless, what about none other than Rita Panahi in Canary Yellow tonight? At least that's the way it looks on telly. Rock stars, hello. Catherine, first and most importantly, have you had a rest? Because it's been a big 5 weeks.
Yeah, it certainly has. So I actually spent the day cleaning up my house yesterday, and today I was in my pyjamas watching Netflix. So, yeah.
Yep, good. You've earned it. Enjoy. Now, Rita, everyone from the ABC, the SMH, the Guardian, of course, made it very clear that the women of Australia have roared and they've got the government that they want and the Tiffany independent that they desire. But of course, the reality is that not all women in the country are of a particular political bent, but you're not allowed to say all of that because, of course, they'll come after you. But so I want to ask you both here about how the Liberal Party appeals to female voters, right? Now, I'm not talking about the voters who vote for the Greens or the ones who vote for Tiffany, but the suburban women that will be watching us tonight. Rita, in the next 3 years, how should Peter Dutton fight for them?
Well, I think the women of Australia, the overwhelming majority of them, not just those in the most affluent seats in the country, care about the same issues that most men care about, and that's cost of living, what's best for their children, jobs, the economy, and things like energy costs. So I think that's where you focus if you are wanting to win them over, to show them how life under a Dutton government will be better for their family than life under an Albanese government. And I think it's quite insulting to suggest that women only care about particular topics. There has to be something to do with the gender gap or to do with childcare. I mean, that is, frankly, a little bit patronising.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and sort of at its heart sexist. But Catherine, again, what do you want to hear over the next 3 years about how to appeal to what a Liberal Party would do for women?
Well, I think there's two things there. Women were the forgotten people by the Liberal Party this election. Women like me who are being told we can have it all, we got educated, we're looking after kids, ageing parents, keeping our relationships together. We're tired and we didn't have a voice in Parliament, and that's absolutely what the Teals tapped into. But I also think that the issues that we face, it needs to be beyond looking at issues that impact women, such as childcare or women's health or DV, and they need to stop looking at it like some niche fringe issue that's just for women. These are, we should have policies in place dealing with those issues because they affect everybody.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it also affects, the boys and girls and people of no gender that are in our families, right? Mm-hmm. About what they see, and this is again, I always think that when you talk about tax, why is that automatically a blokey thing? Why are jobs automatically a blokey thing? I want my little girls to, of course, do whatever the heck they want. And if they want to run a business, they're going to probably have to care about the tax system, right? That's the point about broadening it out. Instead, sort of the identitarianism that's kicked in for a while, and I get it now, we're sort of into, the granddaughters of the Howard haters that are the ones jumping all over social media at the moment. But Rita, as we always say, it's believe all women, protect all women unless you disagree with me.
Well, unless you're a Conservative woman, as Catherine found out, the attacks against her were frankly disgusting, vicious, and many of them came from women, including women in the media who bang on about women's issues. But when it comes to Conservative women, then all bets are off. But just one thing I do want to mention is if you look at the trend overseas, one thing that parents, whether they're mums or dads, care about deeply is their children's education and also indoctrination. And that's something that the Republicans have tapped into, and there's just a grassroots movement there where people are switching over from Democrat to Republican based on that issue. And I think that's an opportunity that the coalition has never really tapped into. That's happening in our schools as well. You only have to look at the curriculum to see just how much activism and left-wing ideology is in there. And yet, every now and then they'll have a complaint about the curriculum, but really they haven't fought that issue in any meaningful way.
Well, and also, here's the thing, right? This again you know, the upside for us making the point, the downside for the country, is that each way elbow gets pushed around by the hard left Labor governments in Victoria, South Australia, Queensland, the ACT, the Northern Territory, and Western Australia. So when they set the national curriculum, nobody is the far bulk of those numbers are going to push it hard left, and that's an opportunity for the Liberals to see what they are doing. It's something that they didn't take on in the fight in the last one. So wait, watch, and see on so many different policies. Now, if I had told you 5 years ago that every state in the country was going to legalise euthanasia, you would have said, "I'm sorry, Paul." Now, interestingly, of course, all of that happened. You can have your views on it, and I'm not going to have the argument about it. But are we about to have the same argument when it comes to cannabis? Now, I'll be very straight up, never touched it in my life, but there's a chance, and it's unlikely, but there's a chance that a political party that is all about the legalising of cannabis might end up as a senator because of preference deals. Now, I still think Pauline Hanson will get there, but wait, watch and see. So I don't want to ask you guys about your personal attitudes towards marijuana. I want to ask you about the overall trend that, Rita, could you see a day in Australia where this was legalised and taxed?
I think that is a distinct possibility. We've seen it in certain US states. We've seen it in parts of Europe. So I wouldn't say it is not... you can't rule it out, but I don't think having had a look at the latest numbers, that's going to get up, and I don't think that Senate spot's going to get up. Like you said, I think Pauline Hanson is going to get there, but it would have been fascinating to have a legalised cannabis senator in the Australian Parliament. I mean, they can't be any wackier than some of the other types we've got in there at the moment.
Well, I just think, again, apart from what we all know the consequences of significant use of marijuana is, if they're going to ban petrol engines, they're going to need to find another way of making up money from the petrol excise. And, of course, right now it's about $14 billion when it comes to tobacco. So I'm just saying, obviously they'll do sugar tax, beer tax, and anything else that might be certainly aimed at a certain type of the community. But, Catherine, what's your thoughts about this, about whether you think it will happen versus whether it should?
Well, I think we need to differentiate between decriminalisation and deregulation. I lived in Northern California for a few years. Mendocino County, the biggest export out of the county was cannabis, aside from wine grapes. And we maybe need to look at those places that have already done it. In California, it hasn't worked out well. 90% of the supply is illicit.
Yeah, good point.
So we need to proceed very cautiously, I think, in this area. New Zealand said no. So I think we need to give it some real thought. And if we are going to do it, it needs to be gradual.
Yeah, no, correct. I'm just saying, don't write it off as an issue saying it's never going to come up, right? As Catherine just said, in New Zealand it eventually made its way to basically a plebiscite. There's people on the ballots all the time. So again, think where we were 5 years ago when it comes to euthanasia. So wait, watch and see. That's not advocacy. It's just a prediction of where I think we're going to end up going and the next debate of the mad left. Ladies, thank you so much. Lovely to see you. Well done, Catherine, for standing up for what matters, and we'll continue. You're always welcome here in the Man Cave, okay?
Thank you very much.
Rita, we love you, darling. We'll see you, of course, Monday night, 9 o'clock, and we'll see you on The Outsiders as well.